Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Preparing Hearts for His Glory, specifically talking about the history and the science. Now, why am I only going to talk about the history and the science is because it's the reading about the history, and then the independent history is a separate entity, and then the science specifically. We started off strong, and we decided we were going to do all the storytime books as well, and it turned out to be way overwhelming, and we did not end up having enough time to incorporate the storytime readers. So I am going to just talk about what we really did through the most of the year. Reading about history is the first section. If you look at the picture I just showed you. So it's reading about history, and you're going to be reading from 4 books throughout the whole year. And you're going to be reading from Grandpa's Box, Hero Tales. Now you're going to be reading this. This is sometimes in the Storytime Reader, but it says read Hero Tales as pertaining to the Storytime, but for history. And so you're sometimes going to be reading 2 things for history. This was a major part of it. It's a very big book. Child History of the World. And then Life in the Great Ice Age. This was just a very small portion, but towards the beginning I'm thinking it was. Pretty good book. All of those books were very good books. Like I said, the Child History of the World, that's going to be coming from, that is the main, you're going to read that throughout. Grandpa's Box is mostly the first semester. Very good books for history. So you're going to be reading all 4 of these throughout the year. Grandpa's Box is a fun story about how it's a story about 2 grandkids going to visit their grandparents, specifically Grandpa, and how he has a box of trinkets that he has made with things that have Bible stories pertaining to history. It's a pretty interesting book. Hero Tales is broken up into specific people, and it has very short stories about people in history, and it's a pretty good book too. The Ice Age book, very short. It's a very small part of your history lesson. Good book, good pictures. The Child's History of the World, a little dry. Overall okay. Has 91 chapters. It gets a little lengthy. The maps in it are very good. It's all black and white. There's no color pictures, but the maps in it are pretty good to look at, especially when you compare it to the modern day globe. And those 4 books are specifically the reading about history portion of the book. And that's the only 4 books you're going to read throughout the whole year. Now I'm going to move on to the independent history lessons. And there's quite a few books in that, so let's go over those. All right, these are in no particular order. I'm just, from my stack here, we read Little Miriam of Galilee, Little Riders. This one was at the very end of the year. The Minstrel in the Tower, Pedro's Journal, The Trojan Horse, Peter the Great, Draw and Write Through History, Leif the Lucky, William Shakespeare and the Globe, 5,000-Year-Old Puzzle. So specifically in the book, it has where you have the reading about history, which I told you about a while ago. Then you have a little history project, a research, and then you have independent history. Independent history is where they are supposed to read on their own, which typically is just reading. And they're gonna read, it's typically not very many pages per day. Sometimes it will ask you to do your sketchbook on top of the reading. Again, very simple tasks for independent history. Now, jumping to the other side of the page in the handbook for the teacher's manual, I'm going to go ahead and skip to science. Now, the poetry again is in the back of the book like it was in the previous years, and the Bible study is on this page. You can do the Bible studies too. It tells you the Bible study to read and the CD that goes with it. Now, we did some of this, but we were not consistent with this. And then, but the science, we did do their science. So again, in no particular order, there's Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Pasteur's Fight Against Microbes, One Small Square Coral Reef, One Small Square Arctic Tundra, One Small Square Cactus Desert, Constellations, Columbus, and the Great Dinosaur Mystery. The way they do their science is they'll do, day one is exploration, where you typically read a passage. Day two is that you read a passage and you narrate that to an adult. 3 is where you read a passage and answer questions. And the 4th day is you read a passage, and you're going to typically do an experiment on the 4th day, and that's typically pretty consistent through the whole book with the 4 science sections. Now, why did we not stay consistent with the storytime readers that I purchased? Well, it came down to we were reading 2 different books for history, and we were reading a book for science. So there's 3 books there. Our English requires us to read certain books, so there was books for English. And on top of all that, adding a storytime reader just didn't really make sense to us during our day. We were reading so much already that reading was becoming monotonous instead of fun. One thing I did this year where I hadn't done in years past with Heart of Dakota, in years past they have Facebook pages and groups and people have printables and things of that nature. Whereas now they have it where you can purchase printables directly from Heart of Dakota. Highly recommend those. I really highly recommend those. They're, so I just put them in a notebook. And so you've got your written narrations here. And then vocabulary, your timeline, and this is the independent history section. They're very good to print these out, to purchase these through the Heart of Dakota website. I definitely would recommend doing that. And I also purchased the science from the Heart of Dakota website, the printables, as opposed to just having a blank notebook page like I did last year. This made more sense. It was quicker, it was easier. We both liked it. So overall, my thoughts for preparing hearts for His glory, it was a great year. We had another great year with Heart of Dakota. We've used them for several years now. It was definitely 4th grade was definitely a big jump in as far as the amount of reading material goes, which is why we did storytime readers last year and we were consistent all year, whereas this time we just couldn't read any more things. But it was a good year. We both loved the books. The selections she picks are great. Living books are amazing. Amazing way to learn. Even I'm learning things. So it is more, if you're jumping from 3rd grade to 4th grade, it is a significant amount more books. I know I've been told that the 5th grade level is even more, so I will have to look at that. I haven't actually purchased those yet. So anyway, that's my review for this Heart of Dakota. I hope you have a great year with it. It's a fun curriculum, living books. It's a great way to learn. Enjoy.